Hello friends, crippling depression gets more and more crippling every day here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of Dota Alchemy. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at VP's Pasha taking a hot, steamy dump all over BeastCoast in the Major. First, he was second picked Bat, and then he got countered by Omni Knight. Then he was left to solo the lane. Omni Knight started running at him, so what he did is he ran to the second creep wave, and then he cut it. And then he continued running. He misses a creep and gets a little bit upset about that, holding the skill point. Skills Firefly when EternalEnvy heads over on Drow Ranger. And he pulls the creep wave right in front of his tower. And this gives him a couple of free creeps and makes the lane a little bit more chaotic. Once he gets level 2 in boots, he heads behind the tower, picks up the creep wave, and drags it, making sure to right-click it as it runs past this hill here so it doesn't just run away from him. And then he drags it to in front of the enemy base. In fact, he continues dragging until 3 waves stack up because he has a salve. And then he puts 3 sticky napalms on the creep wave, the 3 creep waves I should say, and then he kills it while salving. Then he does it again on the next creep wave. Exact same thing, right-clicking it when it moves up the hill. Pulls to in front of the enemy tier 3, except this time he kills the creep wave when there are only 2 creep waves instead of 3, because he does not have the salve to tank this creep wave. And then also, this lets him TP back to the shrine, purchase a bottle, and then get this bounty rune, which Omni Knight would have gotten. As you can see, Omni comes and tries to take it. Then after that, he has a siege wave, so he starts throwing some stickies onto EternalEnvy, and he uses Firefly to kill the wave. I think he probably knows at this point that Omni Knight's going to save the Drow Ranger, but because he has the siege creep and a huge creep wave, he's probably just intending to create some pressure and have the siege creep hit the tower. But Envy pulls the creep wave back, and unfortunately, even though it was a good idea, his plans are somewhat foiled. At a certain point, Pasha just asserts his dominance on anybody who enters the lane by throwing spells on them. They eventually leave, and then he tries to use every single one of his Fireflies to kill the creep wave and multiple camps. So he just goes into this kind of farming pattern where he's using the Firefly very efficiently. The moment he picks up the Blink Dagger, this is when he starts getting active. Before this, he was looking around the map with his camera. He saw a lot of people dying on his team, but he didn't do anything because the space was being created for his blink. And now that he has it, they smoke up and they look to take basically any fight just because there's a strong power spike. Unfortunately, Omni Knight counters his hero, so the lasso initiation of Blink Dagger, the blink reveal, is thwarted, but it's okay because he just goes back to farming. Pasha then goes into this playstyle where he essentially just pushes one of the side lanes really far with the Firefly until he has his lasso off cooldown. Then he tries to regen up and prepare to either smoke or just take a fight that looks good. When you have lasso, generally you can just take whatever fight. So he doesn't even use the smoke for this, but he does get one, and they kill Ryoya. So that sets up for this push, and presumably after this fight, he's just going to go use Firefly for multiple camps again. So he just farms, lassos, farms, lassos. When it comes to team fight priority, Pasha goes for Omni Knight 100% of the time if the Omni Knight is close enough to people to save them. So he will occasionally go for the Lina if the Omni is seen somewhere else where Omni can't save the Lina. But in that situation, the fight was in one area, one small area, where the Omni could fairly easily just save a lasso target. So he has no choice but to go for the Omni, so he does. It gets to about 24 minutes into the game. VP has a significant lead. They feel really strong right now because they have a Terrorblade Aegis, and Pasha solo smokes. because there's really no point in using the team smokes because you know the enemy team is just going to be sitting in their base, so you can just siege the tier 2s really easily. So you just have to use the smokes to get solo pickoffs because they're not really useful for anything other than that at this point. So he smokes up, sits on a cliff. He knows that because the enemy team is pushing this out here, they're going to preemptively set up to defend this racks because this tower is about to fall. So he uses this to his advantage. So he moves towards the high ground and sits so that he can have a little bit of a sliver of vision, pulls out the Omni Knight to his team, who's ready to just blow everything on him, which secures this tower and then also secures the high ground push. So they go to push the high ground, and this is pretty important in my opinion, because Donnie and I see this a lot in coaching where people don't do what VP is about to do. So they siege, Ravage is used because Brax is about to die, VP is taking a really good fight, and Ryoya dies, but they're all out of gas. It looks like you could maybe get the racks right now, but there are 2 buybacks, and you still are 5v4 if you're VP, and they back because there are bounties. They just got a huge amount of gold influx that they need to spend. They're all low. They may as well wait for another opportunity because it will present itself because they have a gold lead. And that's where you could throw the game if you are a shittier team than VP and you don't back off there. If you say, okay, you know, they bought back but they have no Lina, let's keep going. It's just an unnecessary risk. So a couple of minutes later, they basically do the exact same thing where the backline is smoked up. Pasha's looking for an initiation on almost anybody. Earthshaker, Omni Knight would be the 2 ideal targets. Earthshaker shows himself, pull into the Terrorblade. Earthshaker gets blown up. This gives Terrorblade the time to just blow up the racks. And now the game kind of breaks wide open for VP. When you have a racks up and 17k net worth lead, Terrorblade with Satanic, it's pretty easy to just let him siege, and you're not going to lose the game. Even if Tide hits a perfect Ravage and they cast all their spells perfectly, they're not going to be able to kill this guy before he just gets the Sunder off. So that's it for this video. More of these sorts of videos to come this week with the Major being out. I'm doing a lot of replay analysis myself because I'm trying to learn, so I figured may as well throw it on the channel. So if you like this or you'd like to see something a little bit different, please leave your feedback below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in another video.